Hello and welcome to this episode of Ground Zero on Herald TV. In this episode, we shall discuss and speak about some interesting aspects with regards to Goa's beloved saint, that is Saint Francis Xavier. We shall talk about his life, devotion to him, and also controversies associated with the same saint. Francis Xavier was born during the Holy Week, specifically on Tuesday, 7th April 1506, at the castle of Xavier in the Kingdom of Navarre, Spain. His parents were Dr. João Xavier and Dona Maria. At the age of 18 in 1525, Francis left his family home to pursue studies at the prestigious University of Paris in France. By 1529, while the college at Barbara, he shared the room with Pedro Fabro and Ignatius of Loyola, who would later influence him profoundly with the words of Christ. These words were, "What does it profit a man to gain the whole world if he loses his own soul?" It was only in 1534 that a transformed Francis joined Ignatius along with several friends. On April 7, 1541, he set sail for India alongside Governor Martin Fons, after having been appointed by the Pope as his nuncio of the distant East. After an arduous 8-month journey, Francis arrived Goa in 1542. Despite invitations from both the governor and the bishop, he chose to reside at the Royal Hospital, dedicating his time to caring for the sick and teaching Christian doctrine. Although he was asked to take on the role as the rector of the newly established College of St. Paul for the training of local priests, he declined this offer, preferring to focus on missionary works, and soon departed for Cochin. In February 1552, Francis returned to Goa with 2 Japanese companions. By April, he was on his way to China, accompanied by 4 others, including his Chinese friend Antonio de Santa Fe. During his journey, he visited missions in Cochin and Malacca, and they traveled from Singapore to Sunshine Island while he was on his way to China. In November, his friends urged him to reconsider his trip to China and rather asked him to cancel his trip there, but he was resolute about his decision. Sadly, in December, Francis fell ill with a fever which increased day by day, and on the morning of 3rd December, he passes away peacefully. In 1782, a public exposition was held with the aim of scuttling the rumor that the body of Saint Francis Xavier had been carried by the Jesuits to Portugal, and the body of the deceased Goan canon Antonio Gomes had been placed in the coffin instead of the body of Saint Francis Xavier. But this was not true at all, as the subsequent medical tests that have been performed have demonstrated clearly. On this occasion, the coffin was opened in the presence of several eminent personalities. However, there were no physicians at this point, and minutes were written down. It said in the minutes that there was hair on the head, that the face has all the features but was eaten up and covered with skin except on the right side, where there was a small bruise. He has both ears and all the visible teeth except for one. He has the left arm, but the right arm was missing. Hair was also present in some places, is what was reported. He has no right arm, as I have said earlier, but when the bishop and the governor touched the body underneath the vestments, it was noted that there were no intestines. The skin of the thighs was desiccated kind of, and the feet were covered with skin in which the veins could be seen. The toes with the nails and only the last toe of the right foot were missing. Yet another controversy about Saint Francis Xavier's body is that the sacred body of Saint Francis Xavier was lost at the sea during his transit to Goa and was replaced by the then Portuguese authorities with the body of Totagmuni Sri Raula Terra, who was a Buddhist monk and an eminent scholar who lived in the 15th century in Sri Lanka. Now Francis died on the island of Sunshine while awaiting for his entry into China. Although Francis worked on the islands close by to Ceylon, there is no evidence that he entered Sri Lanka and definitely did not die in Sri Lanka. Moreover, the body cannot be that of an old monk who died at the age of 83 in 1491, as the Portuguese came in India only in 1498 and thereafter entered Sri Lanka in 1505. And Francis died in 1552, whose body was welcomed into Goa only in 1554 by those who knew him very well when he was living. Also, through the various examinations of the sacred relics of Saint Francis Xavier, there is nothing that ever suggests that the body is of Asian and not of European origin. Speaking of the staff that is seen in the coffin of Saint Francis Xavier, or rather the urn that consists of the sacred relics of the saint. The improbable victory of the Portuguese troops against the Marathas in 1683 was attributed to the intercession of Saint Francis Xavier. The governor Dom Francisco de Tavora apparently placed his staff at the side of the saint, praying for his aid in defending Goa. This incident gave rise to the custom that each departing viceroy or governor of Goa had to deposit his ruling baton in the saint's tomb before the new viceroy or the governor could receive it. From the end of the 18th century until Manuel Antonio Vassallo y Silva became the last Portuguese governor in 1958, the baton was not placed in the tomb, but rather in the hands of a 4-foot silver statue of Saint Francis Xavier, which was placed on the altar dedicated to him. The statue was a gift of a pious Italian lady who requested the statue to be placed as a token of the pilgrim's love for the saint. The exquisite silver statue had a staff in each of his hands. One was a pilgrim staff that is generally seen in the representations of Saint Francis Xavier, and the other was an Indian cane. It was this Indian cane which was associated with the state's viceroys and the governors who, while they were swearing, they would come and place their staff with the statue and then take it off. It was handed over to the new governors. So this was a practice that continued until the liberation of Goa in 1961.
Here are some little known facts about Saint Francis Xavier which you might have heard and a bit more. His relics are also present in many places around the world, like for example in the Church of Gesù in Rome, Italy, which has the right forearm of the saint, which he used to bless and baptize thousands of converts, is preserved in the Mother Church of the Society of Jesus. Then at Seville in Spain, a relic of the saint said to be a part of his hand is kept in the Jesuit Church of San Francisco Xavier. Then at Macau in China, a relic believed to be a part of one of his bones is held at St. Joseph's Seminary and Church in Macau. Smaller relics, such as fragments of bone or pieces of his garment, are distributed in churches and Jesuit institutions across the world, including places like Japan, Portugal, and the Philippines. These relics are usually kept in reliquaries and displayed for veneration during special occasions or feast days. He passed away at a tender age of 46 on the island of Sichuan, off the coast of China. This was preceded by a brief illness exacerbated by physical exhaustion and fever. All this happened as he was waiting to gain entry into mainland China to continue his phenomenal missionary work. Talking about his education, he was a bright student, recognized for his intellect, and earned his bachelor's in arts from the College of Saint-Barbe in Paris. Later on, he went on to complete his Master of Arts degree focused on liberal arts, which included subjects such as philosophy, classical languages, and rhetoric. It was at the University of Paris where he met Ignatius of Loyola, the founder of Society of Jesus, who basically convinced him to join the group and be a part of the missionary work. So, technically speaking, Saint Francis Xavier was a co-founder of the Society of Jesus. As a missionary, Saint Francis Xavier traveled about 80,000 kilometers between 1541 and 1552, covering India, Malaysia, Spice Islands, and Japan, all without the convenience of modern transportation. Saint Francis Xavier was the first Jesuit missionary to step outside Europe, which set the stage for global Jesuit missionary work that continues to this day. He began his missionary life at the age of 35, which went on for 11 years, culminating at his death at 46. He was canonized as a saint on March 12, 1622, alongside Saint Ignatius of Loyola and Saint Teresa of Avila. Xavier was fascinated with geography and maps. He was known to study them intently before planning his missionary routes. This helped him strategically plan his journeys. Francis was an enthusiastic letter writer too. He wrote over 150 letters detailing his journeys and experiences. His letters were so popular that they were read in European churches, bringing news from distant lands. The Saint Francis Xavier was a multi-sensory preacher. Sometimes he used bells, musical instruments, and even dramatizations to engage with the crowd, who couldn't understand his language or needed more attention-grabbing presentations. This made his sermons unique and lively. Sometimes, to attract the attention of people who wouldn't come to his sermons, he would mimic the crowing of a rooster. Sure, he had a good sense of humor and used it effectively.